study of over 41,000 parentified children, by the definition, found that the most dissatisfied child profile was a child that had moderate care-taking responsibilities. This dissatisfied child profile led to the lowest quality of life or lowest satisfaction ever recorded. I'm Dr. Jules, and let's look at the tragic story of Jessalyn Grace and decode her personal experience of parentification.
This is how my mom exploited me for money as a child and simultaneously subjected me to years of verbal, financial, and of course, physical abuse. Okay, so I wasn't going to talk about this again, but due to my unfortunate luck and my lack of cybersecurity, my own mother decided to log into this account using my brother's iPad, which used to be mine, which is why the account was on there, and decided to wipe every single video that I had on this channel, including the ones that weren't related to this topic or her. So I'm talking about this yet again and filling you guys in on everything without the sugar-coated, what I thought was respectful language that I used in the last video that got taken down. So let's start, because I am sick of talking about this over and over again. I have a script in hand, so I don't miss anything, as you can tell, but just know that everything that I say is all my words. Here's the rundown. My mom and I have always had a rocky relationship, and it just got worse and worse as the years went on. In 2016, I finally had permission to make a YouTube channel called Jessalyn Grace. I posted consistently thanks to the help of my mom and reached 1.5 million subscribers in 2018, which is when I hit my peak. In doing YouTube, I had to deal with years of verbal abuse and sometimes physical abuse whenever I would make a video. My mom controlled what I posted and what I would say on camera. Everything had to be perfect and fake. If I misspoke, said the wrong line, or made the wrong face, she would scream and shout at me. And I was 11 getting called a fucking bitch.
Right? Because as we consider the fact that she's giving her feedback for her performance, what it really turns into is a harsh way to correct mistakes. Now, that explains partially why she doesn't seem to want to make a mistake today and wanting to have that script in front of her, which also she had mentioned is because of the fact that she's tired of having to repeat this story. But also, I can imagine that this did turn into a worry of making mistakes when from a young age you are so punitively chastised when you say or do the wrong thing. But the additional layer is mom's function of this correction is protecting revenue stream. When a 11-year-old is called a slur for messing up on camera, that is a total dissolution of the parent-child relationship. It is flipped from one of a protected child and a overseeing parent to a manager and an employee. It creates a dynamic that is one of fear and exploitation. This is one of the key contributors to the creation of emotional and financial parentification.
After being fed lines of words 2 minutes before the camera would roll. But it didn't matter, because my mom wanted the money. We needed the money, and at the time, I wanted to help my family out as much as possible. In high school, I was extremely burnt out, and my mom became more hands-off when I became extremely unmotivated and hated making videos. As a kid, you don't really think that what your parents do is ill-intended, and to this day, I know for a fact that my mom truly wanted me to succeed. She just went about it the wrong way. And I didn't realize that there were two forms of abuse happening. I honestly had no concept of the money I was earning, how much things I showed on camera costs, and the random designer goods that would appear in the closet. I also didn't know that only a fraction of it was going towards my savings, my college fund. It never occurred to me that years of work weren't being saved for me, besides the 15% that I'd only get from professional shoots, and even then, that was rare. Since being in college, fully supporting myself, it feels so discouraging to know that no one thought or advocated to set me up for better financial standing, especially knowing that I wanted to go to a 4-year university. My dream school was Stanford, for years. And the fact that my mom was behind the wipes of both of my channels, knowing that they were my only sources of income, is insane. I am a self-supporting college student receiving no financial help from someone who had me as their sole provider for years. My mom's a spender.
She was her mom's sole financial provider. That is the finalization of the financial parentification of a girl since the age of 11 years old. Not only is there an undue hardship or responsibility on you to succeed to care for your family, but then it turns into one that is not reciprocated. She does not get access to her finances. She doesn't even know how much she makes. And then later on in life, it turns out her mother stores away the resources for her own well being. The exploitation is complete at that point. What her mom does is she lives success through her daughter, pushes her to do well. And to some extent, it might be possible the mother genuinely thought she had the right to those financial resources, despite the fact that this was Jessalyn's profile. She might have contributed Jessalyn's success to her support and felt undue right to 100% of the proceeds, or 85%. I think Jessalyn is defending herself by giving her mother grace. A child is not meant to be able to conceptualize the parentification profile. It is cognitively exhausting to accept the reality that your parent treated you like a parent for so long. I believe that's the function behind her comment of, I truly believe my mother wanted me to succeed. An onlooker probably wouldn't look at their relationship and believe that. But it is possible that in order to defend her own mental well-being, she might not be fully prepared to accept or confront that distortion of the parent-child relationship. As a child, it is in her best interest to maintain some sort of parent-child connection. Admitting that her mother probably didn't do things for her success or well-being at all is one of the most difficult things to accept for a child.
I'm sure most of my income went into her extensive handbag collection, as you can see here. The account is now private, but these screenshots are from that account. Again, very extensive collection. Now she spends her time purchasing Labubus and handbags for her Labubus.
Oh my goodness.
I'll hide that account for her sake, so you guys don't harass it, but here are the screenshots of that. It's funny that she was able to spend so much.
And it's interesting because she continues to protect her mother's page so that people don't harass her. It's not uncommon for a person with certain types of traits to create a need in their victim to protect them. There's 2 points to this. One, the victim is afraid of retribution because of the history of trauma in that relationship. And 2, the perpetrator makes the victim believe that they need the well-being of the perpetrator in order for themselves to be in a good standing. She might have been conditioned to believe that any harm that comes to her mother is almost like harm being done to her. That's not uncommon in relationships that include narcissistic injuries and limbs, where you are the extender or the extension of your perpetrator.
Money on handbags, clothes, furniture, but when it came to setting me up for financial success, we were suddenly not doing so well, or didn't have enough money. If I remember correctly, we had more than enough for your classic flaps, your brooches, your jewelry. And what about the close to 80 grand wedding you chose to throw while having an affair?
80 grand. That could have covered 1 to 2 years of college alone. And keep in mind, Jessalyn is working independently while going through college. This story really puts a fire under me. It really does.
She left my father in 2021, was cheating on him with her high school classmate who was also my stepdad, and I knew about this affair before my parents decided to drop thousands and thousands of my earnings on a grand wedding. My stepdad was invited to and showed up to it while being in a relationship with my mom. And I wasn't going to blast this on the internet, but Mom, you did take away my only sources of income twice. What kind of mom has such disregard and hatred for a daughter who has only given her respect that she probably doesn't deserve? A daughter who took care of and loved your other children, and spent years making content that you controlled and signed contracts that you decided, only to save little to nothing when I turned 18.
Yes, 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 yes. This is the confrontation that she needs for freedom. The more she accepts the reality, Mother, you used me, you got what you could, and when it was time for me to get the help, you jumped and ran with every little piece, even pieces that were just mine. You took them from me. And I'm going to acknowledge that's what happened. This is the speech of a warrior.
You still have the audacity to say that I'm being brainwashed, I'm being fed lies, that I'm lying.
Go off.
So here's how the rest of the video is going to go, along with some screenshots and other receipts. You should have left me alone, left my content alone, and I wouldn't have to resort to this. But it is, so that's just the consequences of your actions. And I remember you were always such a big believer in karma. To make things sweet and simple, my mom and I argued literally about everything. Nothing I said or did would make her feel better. In fact, everything I did irked her. For example, Mom, when I was bedridden for 2 weeks, I couldn't stand up without fainting. I had a persistent fever, I couldn't eat on my own, and I couldn't function and get out of bed. You were angry at me the whole time, and I thought it was because...
Let's take a look at some of these texts for a second, because I want to make sure we can see really how unwell, okay, her mother was. Okay, because you weren't even listening to you thinking I was mad at you because you were sick. That's your reason. Have more common sense, Jessa. The last person you should ever ask is Abby. You need to come straight to me. So it's better for you to avoid the issue then, not care about why your mom all of a sudden isn't talking to you. Here it is, right? When we have that injury being pushed at, what it becomes is, how dare you not be upset that I'm upset with you? I distort reality and you don't even notice? It's because she's so used to having control over and dictating the presentation of reality that her victim, when they didn't notice, it was almost like an insult to her. How dare you not recognize how I've become an inconvenience to you? All you do is yell at me. I didn't want to hear it, and I thought you were mad because I was sick. So that's why I didn't say anything, because they are so used to being the caretaker for their parent. Even the breakdown of your body is not allowed. Keep in mind, there's been research, the Funny 1000 study on the children who are parentified to some extent. There are poor physical health outcomes for children who are parentified. They are more likely to experience stress and experience declining health. This probably wasn't the only time her sickness got in the way of her responsibilities. So she has probably experienced her mother being upset with her because she was sick. They asked me for the caption and photos after I got out of the ER. I just sent in whatever and wrote a caption. No, think about what you should have done and be mature about it from now on. You don't ignore your mom's feelings, assuming otherwise. This is horrid. What her mother is doing is actually putting the onus of her emotional well-being onto her daughter. Now, not only do you care for me financially, put a roof over my head, but you should be concerned about my emotional well-being, and how dare you put your physical health before my emotions?
I thought maybe you were just mad at me for being sick in general, and being sick was just a burden to you. And turns out you were mad at this Instagram post. I wrote this caption, and I want you guys to read it and see if you can find anything wrong with it. The thing wrong with this caption is that I didn't thank my mom. I didn't mention her in this caption, where the director or the person making this post asked me for my experience on competing. That is why I was sick for so long. dehydrated, couldn't walk or stand up, and my mom refused to help me because of this Instagram post. This was obviously a pattern. My mom wanted recognition and would blow up if she didn't receive it. Same thing if I had a problem that involved her, it would always be me who wound up apologizing because I wasn't regarding her feelings. Well, even months after moving out, when I made my previous video that got taken down, when I made it, all I was thinking was how to say the right things regarding her feelings. And she still didn't take it well. Mom, you can still paint yourself as someone who gets stepped on by her children, and there would be nothing I can do or say to prevent that. In fact, whenever we would argue, it would lead to me being grounded, sometimes for months at a time. The only way I could get out of my punishment was if I showed my respect to her by posting YouTube videos. Some of the videos you guys might have watched from my old channel weren't out of free will, but to get me out of a punishment.
I want to input a call to action here. We need to be very weary of child YouTube channels. There was a really interesting comment put below, and I want to just highlight it very quickly. Get ready, y'all. We're about to see a lot more of these kids speaking out. This isn't the first story. We have parents, children, who are documented being in abusive parent-child relationships for the sake of maintaining YouTube content. Here's another comment that I found very interesting. Girl, go to Congress. They are about to name a law after you. That is something that actually should be strongly considered. I think that we haven't caught up to the child labor that goes into YouTube, but something tells me soon we will.
Summer after senior year, I was getting ready to go to UC Berkeley. I had graduated from high school and had a lot of things to look forward to. My mom did not want me to go to college so far away. In fact, during the application process, she repeatedly expressed her belief that I wouldn't get into a good college, that I would be struggling in college in terms of finances, and that I should just stay in Fresno or go to Fresno State or community college and become a nurse, something that makes money. In fact, during the application process, I had her write me a letter addressed to my counselor so that she could write me a letter of recommendation. My mom ultimately told me that she had nothing to write because she didn't know what good qualities I had. Once we made a trip to the Bay, this was before I got into Berkeley, by the way, I wanted to visit the campus because I had just sent in my UC applications. And she told me no, because I probably wouldn't get into a school like UC Berkeley anyways. So yeah, she wasn't happy when I got in. She didn't want me to leave, and she expressed that with control. My curfew was now 8 p.m. I could barely go out. I had to ask weeks in advance if I could hang out with friends, and if it was too last minute, the answer would be no.
This again is the function of distorting reality. She convinces her, or tries to convince her, and good job to Jessalyn for not giving into that distorted reality. The amount of willpower she must have, unfortunately, has had to develop with time to withstand this level of distortion is astounding. Mom tries to cognitively distort reality while she is physically making it happen. You probably won't have enough money to go to this college anyway, while she is slowly taking her money and putting it aside for herself, making it so Jessalyn would not have the income to actually financially succeed while in college. She tells her to go into a field that will make a lot of money. Jessalyn was already doing so well for herself, for her entire family, and her mom was able to stow away funds as a result of that. And yet she was telling her a field to go into, assuming that she would not be able to continue down this road to make an income. It wasn't the question of whether or not she could continue down this road. It was a question of whether or not her mom would allow her to. And what does her mom do while she's in college? Wipe out her accounts. What a perpetrator will try to convince you cognitively, they will try to inflict on you in reality if they have the power to do it. And her mom has done it point by point.
Even though I had already graduated high school and I was going to Berkeley in the fall, I had my license and everything, but I was still being treated like a middle schooler. And at this point, we were still arguing every day. Heated arguments, too. Then came the incident that caused me to move out. My mom's curling iron was missing one day. She assumed that either me or my sister lost it, and so we spent all day looking for it while my parents were out on a day trip. I still couldn't find the iron, so when my mom comes back, she's absolutely livid. She cussed me out, cussed my sister out, again, livid over this iron. Then she finds it in my sister's closet, broken. My sister hid it after she broke it and then lied about knowing where it was. It's stupid, yes, but my sister was also in middle school at the time. I was exhausted at this point. I'd spent all day taking care of my two siblings. It was around 1 or 2 a.m., so I went to my room. And then my mom yells at me to come out because she needed to have a talk with the family, aka talk to only me. She started yelling about how I had no respect, and I was fed up, and I was really tired, so I argued back.
This is another common tactic used in interrogations and power struggles. Late night calls, arguments, demands. It is at the wee bit hours of the day. She has been struggling to find things. For her mom comes back rejuvenated from a whatever she was doing for her enjoyment, while Jessalyn has been working, trying to do something that her mom demanded she did. And then she pulls Jessalyn aside to argue with her while she is exhausted. This almost creates a dynamic where Jessalyn is bound to say or do something that will make the mom say, "See, you're disrespecting me." But it's also an exertion of the mom's power over Jessalyn. Not only can I control you when I'm not around, but then when you're exhausted and ready to go to bed and on the brink of collapse, I can still get you to do what I want you to do, and then I'm going to berate you while I do it. Very common interrogation technique. And it's really meant to break people.
And when I did, she proceeded to slap me, shove me, and scream. I told her she couldn't hit me anymore because I'm 18. Then she grabbed this wooden mallet, as seen in the photo, and tried swinging at me with it. Mind you, I didn't even break this frickin' iron. After that, she took my laptop, my phone, everything and anything I could use to contact someone with, so I wouldn't tell anybody what happened. And when I got my devices back, I told my now godbrother Joseph what happened, and I left shortly after that. I didn't tell them I was leaving, I just left, which is why she's blown up these last few months, and has done anything in her power to make my life harder. Honestly, it's just really annoying to deal with. And I don't want to talk about this anymore, and I try to avoid the topic as much as possible, but it does seem like she wants a reaction out of me, so Mom hears me reacting. Also, here are the messages she sent me the morning she found out I left. Not really concerned, just angry. Needed me to watch my brother, didn't really care. After I made the video that got taken down.
Again, another tactic that is not uncommon in these volatile relationships where the person will harm you and hurt you. There will be a blow up or a disagreement that really hurt you. And then what happens is they want the next day to start as if nothing happened. Very common in perpetrator-victim relationships where there is a constant exposure to emotional abuse.
She made this written response public on her Facebook. And after reading it, I genuinely laughed. I laughed because here she was writing this as a concerned, loving mother, writing this as if I went rogue completely out of nowhere. And it's just, I don't know, if you really meant all of it, why did you take down every single post about me? Why did you take down the post of me in front of a Beamer that you bought with my earnings and pretend that you got it for me? You literally wrote on the caption, "Because she deserves it." And yet I was never allowed to drive. I had to ask friends and classmates for rides back home from school. This isn't me accusing you of abuse. This is me telling the truth about the abuse. You exploited me and I let it happen.
That's right. That is 100% correct. I am not making a claim. I am telling people the reality. The only thing that I want to call out, and not at Jessalyn's expense, is the fact that she let it happen. This is the way that she's been convinced that she had power over the negative things that happened to her. It's not uncommon that parentified children, for so long after being held responsible for the well-being of others, will feel responsible for the bad things that happen to them. Because they learn at a very young age that they have power that in reality they don't really have. They're just being used for convenience. And so when things go wrong, they personalize But interestingly enough, when things go well, they externalize. It couldn't have been me that did that. So her saying, I let it happen, I hope if Jessalyn was ever to see this video, that she'll wait to the end and see that personal call that I want to say to her, that she did not let anything happen to her. These things were imposed on her by the people who were supposed to care for her.
And I didn't realize it until I got older, because I was your child. I am your child. And as a mom, you had a responsibility you couldn't fulfill. And that's the clarity that I needed. So I'm sorry to you guys for witnessing this whole mess. I can't recover the old videos, unfortunately, but new content will come out once I get my bearings straight. But for now, here's a really summarized version of the old video that I posted, along with some information that I decided to leave out. But anyways, thank you all for listening, and I'll see you guys later.
That was an emotional roller coaster. This is the systemic explosion that was bound to happen. The wooden mallet is the perfect representation of the total failure of her mother's emotional regulation tools and abilities. The mother was fighting to maintain this capture and control relationship with Jessalyn, and she left. Jessalyn, if by any chance you watch this, I want to speak to you as a psychologist, but also as a fellow human being who understands common decency. This was not your fault, and you did nothing wrong to defend yourself. You are a child forced to be a parent from the age of 11. This role started and intensified as a conflicted one. You feel behind because your earnings are gone. But according to the science of resilience, you are light years ahead. You broke the cycle, Jessalyn. I hope you continue to revel in living for yourself radically. I'm Dr. Jules, and it was truly a privilege to decode Jessalyn's survival and radical differentiation. See you next time.